I'm totally okay with filters at this point. Uh, useful. Okay. Live chat. There we are. Okay. Interesting little button mechanics. Although I have no idea what the how the live stream will perform, admittedly, as the title put, it is comments on religion and money. And admittedly, I've been musing on the fact that the two seem oddly interconnected lately. And here's what I mean. And it's a difference, right? It's the difference between those who are trying to survive and those who are actively using it. You know, the oh, it's just a game, and I'm going to toy with it, and who cares? Get who gets hurt in the way. And that's the part that bothers me most, right? We're not really paying attention. You know, we're placed to the. And it's so interesting too because you can see it in so many different places, and it's like people don't want freedom as much as they want freedom from consequences, because you can do whatever you want. And now that said, if like laws are unjust, work to fix them. If the system's unjust and things, that's why I don't really like the blanket statements because things are quite nuanced. And so when I think about money as the cultist side of things, I'm not wanting to paint any picture, big brush, or anything like that. If anything, to be perfectly honest, I'd rather draw a caricature because the caricature would make it easier to see the reducta ad absurdum of what I'm getting at, and also make it a little bit easier to see those places where we ourselves can work on it, right? Because the fact that we created a society where people have to decide, it's like, okay, am I going to get rent today, or am I, rent or food? The new shoes that are desperately needed, or insulin? What's it going to be? And that those kind of choices are ridiculous, wrong to say the least, ridiculous straight up front. And so, thinking about it, it's kind of like, what would create a society that would do that? Like, what kind of mentality would do that willingly? And I think it's one where the money becomes the point, right? And justifying the means kind of thing. Mute while I blow my nose. Sorry about that. So, but I just only seen this kind of caricature once, and it's part of what drove me to where I am now, because this caricature that I'm presenting is not too different from the person that I actually interacted with that got me to that point. Was a person who, not a bad person, not in any stretch of the imagination, just very broken and very torn, and very much serving one master, even though they didn't think they were serving as well as they were. And it became like to the halfpenny kind of thing. Like it and it wasn't like just retentive math, proper accounting, pick a side of the spectrum on that one, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't that. It was like anything out had to come back, and it was miserly is really the only word, and it was saddening more than it was scary because the person was a shell of themselves, a shell of the person they once were. They had gone from generous and joyful and creative and hopeful to being a person who was legitimately cultist level obsession with money, with their money, and it's hurt to see because you go from somebody who's got an incredible heart and they choose to trade it for something of this world, something temporary. And I think that's what religion often does is it trades rules for temporary things. You know, oh, you play the money game this way, you play by these rules, ethical or not, is inconsequential to their particular game, meaning the money game. I mean, it's prestige, power, money. I mean, these things have been idols for forever, right? Power, sex, yada yada yada. Not much changes, and it's not as an insult. It's just recognizing if not much changes because the enemy doesn't have any new tricks, and God is always doing something new. Then why be obsessed with the enemy's old, right? Like, hold on to it as much as you want. Eventually, power will change hands. Puff yourself up as much as you want. Eventually, names and prestige. Oh well, I am this family. Eventually, doesn't mean a damn thing. And I mean, really, at this point, Kennedy's more of a dead joke than it is a powerful name. That's not even trying to be an insult either. That's just like historical trend, like recognizing generational audience. It didn't have the same impact it did on me. And the first time I saw Kennedy's assassination, I was already desensitized because yay, unlimited exposure to the internet. Probably not a good idea. But I digress back to the money religion thing, because like it's kind of funny too thinking about it just for a moment. God is very much fond of free will. One, if he wasn't, then why do we have the ability to make choices we do? I think it's also why the reasons we have so many of the questions we do now. I mean, why would God allow it? Well, I mean, if you love somebody out of force, mandate, and programming, then it's not free will, it's a robotic programming, and you are doing what you are meant to do by default. Exactly a special thing there. And if it's a choice to love, a choice to say, no, you're the one I choose, you're the one I want, you're the one I pick. I mean, anyone who's ever been married in a successful long relationship understands that one. Like, oh, I love you, and I fell in and out of it. Hormonal response. Reference it this week at some point. Anyway, digressed again. It's the choice. It's the act of choice. And religion seems to be more about removing choice, removing free will, removing the ability to go after God. I mean, there are right ways and wrong ways to do it, right? I mean, hell, look at Balaam, right? And Balaam's actually an interesting example to me because Balaam starts out with knowing the name of God, right? He knows Yahweh's name. He knows how to call upon him. And he actually gets called out for using sorcery to do it. And after he realizes, oh, hey, this is the plan, he's like, oh, okay, I no longer need sorcery. I can just do it this way. And it's like, well, you don't need sorcery to reach out to the God of all creation. Trying to force his will by using certain jump on the right notes kind of pressure point things. Exactly the right thing to do. Trying to force it. And that's the thing, right? Like, when looking at the story of Balaam, it to me it talks about the right way and the wrong way to do things, because the 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 ends can't justify the means. No matter how good the ends are, they can't justify the means. Because if you lose how you are getting there, then what was the point of fighting for it to begin with? If you lose who you are fighting to keep it, what was the point of holding on to begin with? And and this is one of those things, right, where it's like you can apply this idea in multiple ways. I mean, you could apply it just to really digging into yourself. I mean, if we're not holding on to our own definitions, there's more freedom to truly understand who we are, what we're made to be. Humanity is able to do incredibly wonderful, amazing things, incredible feats. But more often than not, we get sidetracked by the silliest of reasons. I mean, we get the technology now to 3D print houses. To say nothing of all the abandoned buildings. I mean, this isn't trying to pick a political side. This is just asking a genuine, honest question. If the point is people and not money, why can't we come together to find a way to help the homeless we have into the buildings we can repair and get people off the streets? If the point is people and not money, then why don't we find a way so that people stop having to pay the renter's game where they end up spending twice what they would spend on the house and actually let people have that dream again of having their own place? I mean, there's a reason the word talks about a beautiful garden to call your own. It's a beautiful gift. It's a wonderful thing. When we take that from other people for the sake of greed, how horrible. How small we become. We can do incredible things. We won't, though. And just drawing from my own experiences, I've had reasons of not doing it born of fear, heartache, pain, unease, rejection. Not thinking I was good enough, not thinking it was a decent enough idea, feeling like a small voice that wasn't worth being listened to, feeling like an idiot. A lot of different reasons. I know a lot of them. I know that as long as we allow them to be excuses, we'll never see something new come next. And we can keep replaying the same game over and over again that we've been doing since pre-Rome. Or we can do something better. The point's got to be people. Because if people aren't the point, then what is? According to the Bible, just opening pages. Humanity is a very good creation. So people are the point. People whose muchness is to look after trees and plants and flowers and seeds and animals and birds and reptiles and things that crawl on the ground and things that soar through the sky and things that gallop across the ground with their cloven or uncloven hoof or paw and everything in between. People whose muchness is to look after those wonderful creatures that God has made and to make this beautiful garden place grow. The way we can do that is by letting Him show us how. And I say that because I was there. I tried to, hey, I'll focus on the nice thing, and I'll do the therapy, and I'll do none of it worked. None of it. I mean, they had me on Ambien, and Lunesta simultaneously. 0.5 and I want to say 3 or 0.3, something like that. I don't remember the Lunesta. Got the bottle floating around here somewhere though, just because, well, they're small little plastic bottles and really useful for storing tiny things. Then they also had me on 3 milligrams of Xanax a day. That was something else. Same time as the sleeping pills too, so I know what it's like to do there. And I've done the therapy thing, and even did the whole check myself in after, tried that one out. Don't. Going there though, going to the checking myself in, that week was probably one of the better things that could happen because it gave me a perspective shift. Other than the fact that it was quite quite clear the sane people were the ones who had checked themselves in, and the ones that were slightly nutty were the ones running the joint, because they were continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And I will admit, there truly is nothing more reassuring than knowing the world is crazier than you are. And when it intends to do the same thing it's been doing since before Jesus to now, and nada has changed, we've just found ways to kill each other more rapidly or with a prettier boom. It gave me the perspective to realize that it's got to be about people. Because the ones that were running the place, checking boxes, making sure they hit every T, and every little thing was checked off, and every box was checked, and you could smell the bureaucracy in the air. And the people who are looking out for each other are the ones who are in there. People who are listening to each other's stories, looking out for each other, lifting each other up. They were the ones who were in there. And I think in that moment I truly realized that if it's not about people, there's no point. Because the boxes and filing in triplicate, they are the people's stories. They don't say anything about the person, about their hopes, their dreams, their joys, their wants, the reason they feel at the end of their rope. It's just a box. Checked off to make sure insurance company A can pay out to business B after having business C through E prescribe drug Z through beta prime. We already live in a dystopian hell, and it's one we've made of our own choices. Our own choice to reduce people to cogs, numbers, parts. We have the ability and the technology to do so much. We're already looking at into seriously, as we're now. Look it up, please, because you'll probably find more up-to-date stuff on it than I know. And as I'm doing this, because I haven't looked it up recently, I just remember reading an article about them working on warp drives and working on invisibility shields and having, I think it was like 4 out of 6 sides that were done as being able to render it completely invisible. That you were, I mean, there were so many different beautiful, incredible things with technology, the ability to print food on an atomic level, like. We have precursors to some of the coolest technology Star Trek has to offer. And we haven't learned the simplest lesson that's been there in pretty much every episode, and especially every one, that they travel back in time. Especially the mirror universes, too. Humans are designed to be altruistic. We're designed to put others first. When we put ourselves first, we stifle. We're singular and a collective. And it's interesting to think about, too. Because, 9/11, right? You mess with one New York, you mess with all New Yorkers. You mess with one American, you mess with all Americans. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. That is how quickly we rally. It's a shame we won't do that with each other. The spiritual entities against life that rally against us. And instead of saying, oh, no, that's, you, well, one of us, you, what all of us, we coming for you. And we're doing it in prayer. And we're doing it on our knees. Because we know the Lord fights our battles. And we will stand in the gap for each other. not just in prayer, but and that's the thing, right? Because if prayer isn't just the "Oh Lord, we beseech thee, Amen," but it's actually intimate conversation where you're having those moments of coming to the mind and having it come to mind and talking with God and listening to God, and actually having that intimate conversation place, then so much beauty can come forth. And knowing what to do and where to do, as the James fruit is produced from a Galatians fruit root. Acts of kindness because we remember God's kindness to us, that everything He's seen us through. Mercy because of His mercy, love because of His love. We don't really seem interested in it, and I wonder why. And it's not a talking down, it's not a pessimistic, it's a genuine I do not understand. Humans have always confused me, to be perfectly honest. In my youth, I never felt like one. Sometimes I still feel a bit like Jane Goodall watching The Species. Because humans are remarkably simple, staggeringly so, and at the same time, incredibly profound. And the choices that people make, they're all logical. Now, whether the logic is plain or not, it's all every single one of them coming from a series of progressive events. I mean, this is a learning algorithm. Even if a influence A is not recognized on problem 3, influence A is still back there long before the numbers showed up. So you worked there all the way through to that point. So until you deal with the initial influence, and it's again logical, right? Like it's progressive. Even the outbursts have to come from a certain progressive algorithm of okay, this triggered by this, caused by this. That's why communication takes time and patience and effort, because it's the art of actually hearing each other to get to the point of the algorithm of this to this to this to this. Because it's not trying to diagram the sentence or the person. It's trying to listen with your whole heart. Because if you can see the logic as to why somebody did something, you can't say they're illogical. And if you can't say they're illogical, and you can't basically discount them for whatever reason, then you can hear them. Because when we discount each other, we lose part of ourselves, I think. Look at Power Battle, right? Look at humans. Look at what they're accomplishing. Look what they can do. We gotta go confuse their language, otherwise nothing will stop. What stopped us is the idols we decided to start worshiping along the way. Sacrificing children for sake of ease, beauty, using it for power. And I don't mean children in that case. I mean, yes, there are people that do that. I'm talking about sex. Like, sex is supposed to be the physical manifestation of love between two people. If you're using sex as a bartering chip in your relationship, you're not going to have a very good relationship because it's not a bartering session. You're not two parties coming at each other with a sword, hoping that one of you makes it away from the blink without losing your other eye. You're two people that have come to this to be each other's helper. Literally, you are the help that I cannot be. It's a gift, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of responsibility. I mean, Jesus said it himself. What do you think Peter was like? Time out, Chief. That's marriage? Oh, well, we're boned. Because this is a person you're with through thick, through thin, through all of it. Someone who you love so dearly and so intimately that in your heart never could there possibly be the thought processes of, I mean, Jesus said himself, you look at another woman with lust in your eyes, you've already committed adultery in your heart. Admittedly, it's actually that standard that's been making it a lot easier to do a few other things. look with lust, commit adultery, look with hate, commit murder, look with envy, commit theft, greed. Corbin, I just had to ask, why would I want to do that to another person if I wouldn't want it done to me? Why would I want to hurt another when I'm tired of being hurt myself? It's easy to put up walls. I think religion allows us to do that really easily. Religion that says, no, 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 I'm not allowed to interact with that group of people because, well, they just don't have the same views I do. American Gospel's a prime example of that one. Sad one, prime one. I'm really glad to have learned the term recently because it was like, what do you call it? But yeah, no, that sums it up, yeah. Sums it up, sadly. It's the real gospel. Religion says, no, 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 I don't have to reach out and love another person. I have to reach out and hug the people who I don't want near me. No, 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 I don't have to see others as I am seen, or love others as I am loved. And money is what money is the act of faith our culture has decided to spend its focus on, because it's not backed by anything physical, so it is an act of faith. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, backing the value of the United States dollar except hope, prayer, and agreed upon fart contract. And much like the wind, just as quick. Hence, the economy as it is, because let's just run up another stack, it'll be fine. Right, but that'll inflate the economy, it'll be fine. But it'll buff out, just do it. Okay then. Economy crash in 3, 2, 1. And they run them off. Because there's nothing backing. So, okay. Money is an agreed upon religion, fine. When people find a outward religion that they can function on, one that says, oh no, I'm only allowed to interact with these group of people, oh hey, yeah, this is my echo chamber. When we find those religions, we'll pay anything to keep our blanket, anything to keep our safety, anything to keep that little area where we feel nice and safe. A walled city built on blood, no matter what it costs, as long as we're protected. It's a cane, huh? Trying to be facetious on that one, especially with the drink. I'm mostly just thirsty. It seemed appropriate, or at least apropos, because it's kind of what we do. We've created a structure that allows that, and then we'll buy and pay for any shape of Jesus that allows us to continue to think like that. We don't want a Jesus that goes for the wounds because he knows they need to be healed. We don't want a Jesus that reaches across the aisle to people of whatever type they may be, race, creed, color, religion, ethnicity, pick a thing. Admittedly, I was really resistant to say race just because to me it's like Homo sapien. Are you kidding me? Homo sapien. Shade doesn't matter. Homo sapien. God made every single one of us. A characteristic isn't a divider. When we start using things to cut each other apart, or distinguish ourselves as, oh, I'm this and oh, you're that, it shouldn't who I am distinguish who I am, not what. Because if you're distinguishing me by what I am, why don't you care about the who? this question. I mean, all this stuff. I'm just rambling on, asking a genuine questions from the point of view of somebody who's confused. Humanity says to shoot for the stars, but it continues to aim for the dust it was made from and less than. It focuses on being able to better itself, but it only betters the elite and allows the lesser to be used as trophy kills or parts or experimental pieces to be used. It's confusing. Man is meant to be an incredible, very good thing. Why don't we want to be? I'm not saying I'm good at doing it. Like I'm just trying to make it along one day at a time. I gotta ask, like, if every single one of us all decided to say that this is enough, how much would the world change? We just said no, no more. No more to the greed, no more to the trafficking in death. No more in the lesser of two evils. No more. We want better, and we will have it. Because we must. To continue to chase after the lesser of two evils. Eventually lead to the pits of hell. And nowhere deeper to go. The Underdark is a dark place. We truly don't want to go there. I pray we won't. May His favor be upon you. I'll see you then.